Well, a plan to move displaced KZN residents to safer accommodation is falling apart. People left homeless by July's floods were meant to move to former student residences, but a dispute over the contract with owners has left victims in limbo once again. Government was left scrambling to find alternate housing, but eNCA's senior reporter Dasen Thathiah joins us now from Durban with the very latest on this particular issue. Dasen, good morning to you, colleague. I mean, months after these devastating floods, residents and families still displaced. What's the very latest coming from where you stand?
Well, it's been quite an ordeal for those victims of the floods that were living at the Truro Hall in Westville. I mean, they'd been there since April, and that was meant to be temporary accommodation, while initially, where I'm standing now, they were meant to be temporary residential units that would be constructed while they waited for permanent structures. So I hope you're following that. So they were in temporary accommodation, then they were meant to be TRUs, and then there was meant to be permanent accommodation. So already that was a long wait that they were in for. But on Sunday, it was announced that they would then be placed into what used to be student accommodation, and that was meant to bypass the temporary units that were going to be constructed for them. So that was the plan. There was a media briefing on Sunday, as you'll recall, and amid much fanfare, that's when these flood victims were moved out of that hall. But they were not moved into that accommodation immediately because it wasn't ready. So they had to sort out a few things. They had to be cleaned and painted, and they were put up at a hotel in the CBD. But now it seems that that landlord has cancelled that agreement, or has backtracked on that agreement that we were told government had with him, so that doesn't stand, which currently means that they are sitting at a hotel while a new agreement or new premises is being looked for, or any other agreement is being signed. So I'm here in Reservoir Hills now with the chairperson of the Ratepayers Association, Ish Prahlad. Ish, you were also there on Sunday when some of the residents were unhappy about how the process was being handled. What is the latest now in terms of housing these residents? You had said to me there on the day that the flood victims are very much a part of this community.
Correct. They're part of Reservoir Hills, and I've been for the past day and a half running around trying to find decent accommodations near their schools, etc. But I have found them. And I've been with Human Settlements from 9:30 for about 2 hours on the new accommodation. Human Settlements have been through every part of that accommodation, and it is fit for them to take over immediately. We are now waiting for Human Settlements to sign the documentation and move our people into there till our permanent accommodation is finished. And our permanent accommodation is in process at the moment, as you can see by the pictures. They are going ahead, and it's looking very good.
I imagine it's a little too early to start celebrating just yet because of what happened on Sunday. Is there any indication as to how long this process would take? Because, as we know now, in speaking to these flood victims, they are currently at the hotel, and it's not clear when they'll leave there.
Okay, the accommodation is ready. I've spoken to the landlord. I've spoken to Human Settlements. It's now up to Human Settlements of how speedily they sign this lease and get the people onto those premises. And it is ready for them to stay in.
Okay, it's just to go back to Sunday briefly. At the time, residents were unhappy with how the process was being handled. So has there now been a change of heart? Just talk to me about what's happened since Sunday to now, where it's gone from that confrontation that we saw there to now residents assisting in getting this type of accommodation.
Okay, the biggest problem is when we had the task team meeting, the actual meeting was to establish a proper accommodation till the permanent accommodation is done, and the place where we were brought to was not the right place for accommodation, and it's not suitable for the amount of people to be in. And we had flooding of sewer, etc. We mentioned that to the Premier as well. It's not right for the people to live in. But now, the people of Reservoir Hills are not against our people to stay in Reservoir Hills. We are building permanent accommodation for our people in Reservoir, for our flooded victims in Reservoir Hills. They are our people. We want them here. But now I went out throughout the whole day, yesterday, the day before, and I found accommodation. Now it's up to Human Settlements to sort this out immediately.
Thank you so much for your time, Ishpralad. So, Tumelo, while that is a bit of good news that there is possible accommodation that has been sorted out, we'll have to wait until those documents are signed to see if these flood victims will finally get a bit of a break and be able to settle in. You know, just to remind you, these are families we're talking about, little children, some elderly people as well, that had been holed up there at the hall for this long. And right now, they're being shuffled from pillar to post while they wait for those permanent units that might take a year or maybe 2 years, who knows, that will be built on this land that I'm standing on right now.
Absolutely, Dasen. And you know what, to be honest, I don't think this is a shock at all. If you think about what happened out in Pretoria when there were floods as well, there's some family members who are still stuck in that church in Jagersfontein as well. Promises again from government that they will be relocating families. And again, from where you stand, residents continue to wait and to wait for a while. Thank you so much, colleague, for bringing this story for us. Dasen Thathiah out for us out in Durban, where, of course, government still trying to sort out accommodation for those residents heavily impacted by the floods. And of course, as he mentioned, young children too being caught in the